Inside the Houston facility right now, the tension is quite literally suffocating. We are watching a historic financial standoff unfold behind closed doors, a negotiation that could absolutely alter the trajectory of this entire franchise for the next decade. And at the exact same time, out on the practice field, a devastating season-ending injury is forcing unproven rookies directly into the blinding spotlight, all while a vicious, unrelenting battle for the final 53-man roster reaches its thrilling conclusion. If you want to understand the true state of this team before the season actually kicks off, you're in the right place. We're breaking it all down in today's Explainer, taking an incredibly deep dive into the Texans' high-stakes offseason.
Here is the roadmap for our Explainer today. We'll start with the $70 million demand, followed by Stroud's performance reality check, then we'll look at the Higgins ripple effect, the tight end stepping up, and finally, the defense and final cuts.
Section 1. The $70 million demand, a franchise impasse. Reports indicate C.J. Stroud's camp has asked for a staggering $70 million. I mean, just take a moment to let that number truly sink in. That figure wouldn't just make him the highest-paid quarterback in the National Football League by average annual value. No, it would completely shatter the ceiling of the current market. We are talking about a number that forces a front office to literally take their financial playbook, tear it to pieces, and alter their entire philosophy of roster construction. Look, when one single player takes up that massive of a percentage of the salary cap, the math becomes utterly ruthless. You have to fundamentally rethink how you pay your offensive line. You are forced to let elite game-wrecking pass rushers just walk away in free agency. You end up bargain hunting for your secondary and relying almost entirely on hitting late-round draft picks just to field a competitive team. It's a financial demand that doesn't just dictate the mood in the quarterback room, it dictates the financial survival, the depth, and the very identity of the entire 53-man roster for years and years to come.
And this current impasse leaves us looking at a massive $15 to $20 million gap between what the player demands and what the front office is actually willing to put on the table. The Texans are reportedly trying to keep him in the $50 to $55 million range, a tier that salary cap analysts view as, much more realistic for the team's long-term competitive health. This isn't just some minor squabble over guaranteed money or signing bonuses. Actually, scratch that. This is a foundational clash of perspectives. The crucial point here is a fundamental disagreement on Stroud's exact identity and his true value to the franchise. The negotiation table has basically become a battleground of narratives. On one side, you've got a camp arguing he's a $70 million, once-in-a-generation talent who absolutely deserves to carry the heaviest price tag in the history of the sport. On the other side, a front office quietly wondering if he is closer to a $50 million system manager brilliantly executing an offensive scheme orchestrated by the coaching staff. To answer that without bias, to truly understand who holds the leverage right now, we have to look away from the checkbook and look directly at the tape.
Section 2. Stroud's performance reality check, looking at the numbers.
Looking closely at the 2025 regular season, Stroud's campaign was, rather unspectacular. Playing in 14 games, he managed 3,041 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. In the modern, pass-heavy NFL, where elite quarterbacks routinely eclipse 30 touchdowns without breaking a sweat, those are solid, capable numbers. But they aren't exactly market-shattering numbers that command a blank check, right? But the true leverage killer here, the absolute elephant in the negotiation room, happened in the postseason. In a critical divisional round matchup against the New England Patriots, Stroud struggled under the absolute brightest lights, throwing 4 devastating interceptions in a bitter, season-ending loss. That playoff collapse is incredibly fresh in the minds of the executives currently holding the checkbook. It was a complete masterclass by the opposing defense, exposing moments of hesitation and poor processing under intense pressure. It's exactly the kind of implosion that completely shifts the tone of a negotiation room, making a general manager seriously hesitate before committing to a record-breaking financial anchor. This leaves the Houston Texans facing one of the most dangerous franchise-altering questions in all of professional sports. Does the financial investment actually match the on-field output? If the price tag truly stands at an unyielding $70 million, even Stroud's biggest, most vocal believers have to acknowledge the immense risk involved here. NFL history is literally littered with cautionary tales. Teams that overpaid a quarterback based on potential or past flashes, only to watch their championship window slam permanently shut because they simply couldn't afford a supporting cast to protect him or catch his passes. Can this specific team survive financially when their signal caller commands that much cap space, directly following a 19-touchdown regular season and a catastrophic 4-interception playoff meltdown? That is the exact question keeping the Houston brass awake at night.
Section 3. The Higgins ripple effect, reshaping the offense.
Moving away from the front office drama and onto the turf, we have the sobering confirmation that second-year receiver Jaden Higgins will miss the entirety of the 2026 season due to a torn ACL. Head coach DeMeco Ryans called it a crushing reality, and for good reason.
This right here is the brutal, unforgiving nature of NFL attrition. Higgins wasn't just the depth piece hoping to make the practice squad, you know? He was supposed to be a vital, dynamic part of this passing attack alongside Nico Collins and Tank Dell. He was the designated field stretcher, the speedster who forced safeties to play deep and opened up all those underneath routes for everyone else. Now an entire year of his crucial development is just erased in a single tragic practice rep. Because of one wrong step, the Texans coaching staff is currently scrambling through the night to rewrite their offensive packages to account for his sudden, season-ending absence.
In the NFL, one player's tragedy instantly becomes another player's high-stakes opportunity. The void left by Higgins forces an immediate, intense spotlight onto the rest of the depth chart, completely reshuffling the hierarchy. Jalen Noel and Xavier Hutchinson are suddenly looking at vastly expanded roles. They can no longer just be situational, rotational pieces who come in to block or run clear-out routes. No, they are now required to consistently produce against starting NFL secondaries. They are targets 3 and 4 in an offense that desperately needs production right now. Meanwhile, the domino effect reaches the very bottom of the roster. Lewis Bond has essentially locked down his spot on the 53-man roster because of this shift, turning overnight from a bubble player to an absolute necessity. And veteran Justin Watson might just squeeze in as the final depth piece to provide much-needed stability and locker room experience to a suddenly fragile receiving core.
Section 4. Tight ends stepping up, the new identity. So if you can't spread the field with as many speedy receivers, you have to adapt. You get bigger, you get meaner, and you establish absolute dominance in the trenches. Both NFL analyst Dan Orlovsky and quarterback CJ Stroud have been incredibly impressed by rookie Cade Stover's versatility in doing exactly that. Orlovsky specifically pointed out how Stover is coming back across the line of scrimmage to block, signaling a much more brutal physical identity for this team. They aren't just looking to outrun you anymore, they're looking to outmuscle you. And listen to what Stroud said. He praised the rookie, noting how Stover isn't just a threat in the route tree, but is excelling in the gritty, unglamorous, and violent work of pass protection. When your franchise quarterback, a guy currently negotiating for record-breaking historic money, goes out of his way to publicly praise a rookie's blocking abilities, well, you know that player is rapidly becoming the reliable heartbeat of the offense.
Meanwhile, fellow rookie Marlon Klein is making a massive, undeniable push for the TE2 role. With Brevin Jordan dealing with a lingering injury through the past couple of weeks, Klein recognized the open door and absolutely kicked it down. The preseason is exactly where careers are born, and Klein is seizing his moment. He recorded the biggest offensive play in Week 1 of the preseason, stretching the seam, and then he followed it up by leading the entire team in receptions against the Las Vegas Raiders. The Texans are showing us a fascinating schematic pivot here. By leaning into players like Stover and Klein, they might just run their entire offense through these physical, versatile tight ends, utilizing heavily disguised 12 personnel packages. They're fundamentally reshaping their attack to not only protect Stroud in the pocket, but to violently punish opposing linebackers in the middle of the field.
Section 5. Defense and final cuts. The road to the 53-man roster.
The clock is ticking loudly towards that critical August 30th deadline. Without a doubt, this is the most unforgiving, anxiety-inducing day on the entire NFL calendar, where the franchise must trim down to its final 53 players. We've journeyed through the grueling, exhausting heat of July training camp, navigated those intense, fight-filled joint practices against teams like the Raiders, and now, the front office has to look these athletes in the eye and make decisions that end lifelong dreams. The evaluation process is just ruthless. Guys like veteran Brett Rypien are struggling to show compelling evidence on tape to stay, while unexpected, undrafted names are fighting tooth and nail for their NFL lives on every single snap, on every special teams rep, knowing one missed tackle could literally be the difference between a multi-million-dollar career and packing their bags to go home.
Nothing secures your job in this league quite like taking the ball away. That number, 80, represents the electrifying 80-yard pick six authored by rookie linebacker Wade Woodaz. During the preseason matchup against the Raiders, Woodaz perfectly executed his zone drop, read quarterback Fernando Mendoza flawlessly, jumped the route with incredible anticipation, intercepted the pass, and took it 80 yards to the house for a defining, game-breaking defensive touchdown. Coach D'Amico Ryans, a defensive mastermind who values discipline above absolutely everything else, praised Woodaz heavily, noting that the spectacular play came simply from him being where he's supposed to be. It is exactly that kind of explosive, fundamentally sound football that forces coaches to trust you. It elevates your status in the film room, and it absolutely guarantees you a spot on an incredibly crowded depth chart. Woods joins a defense already anchored by absolute terrifying walks like reigning Defensive Rookie of the Year Will Anderson, the relentless Daniel Hunter, and star shutdown cornerback Derek Stingley Jr. But what should truly keep opposing offensive coordinators awake at night in the AFC is the emerging depth behind those superstars. Look at Dominic Robinson. He has been an absolute standout in August, recording sacks in back-to-back preseason games with a relentless motor and highly refined pass rush technique. When you have hungry, rotational pieces like Robinson proving their worth behind elite starters, you don't just have a good defense, you have the makings of a dominant, suffocating unit. If the offense takes time to adjust to injuries and contract distractions, this is a defense that is built to single-handedly take over football games, mask offensive struggles by forcing turnovers, and ruthlessly dictate the pace of an entire season.
So what does this all mean? With massive, franchise-altering $70 million contracts looming over the front office, and intense, blood-and-guts roster battles finally wrapping up on the practice field, the ultimate question is how this specific 53-man group will perform when the real violence begins. Week 1 against Josh Allen and the heavily favored Buffalo Bills is rapidly approaching. Will the off-field financial standoff break their focus and divide the locker room? Or will the gritty emergence of rookies like Wade Woodaz and Marlon Klein propel them to a massive statement victory? The stage is set, and the consequences for this franchise couldn't possibly be higher. If you want to follow every twist, turn, and transaction of this season, make sure you subscribe to NFL Nexus, hit the like button, and support the channel by becoming a member. Drop a comment below. Is CJ Stroud truly worth $70 million? We'll find out soon enough.